Have you ever dreamed of starting your own country? Imagine a place where you can establish your own rules, your own government, and even your own currency. This may sound like a fantasy, yet around the world there are numerous tiny entities doing just that. These are known as micronations. Often formed on disputed lands or simply unclaimed territories, micronations declare independence and assert sovereignty, though they lack recognition from established world governments. The concept stirs a blend of curiosity, skepticism, and fascination among political enthusiasts and dreamers alike. This brings us to an intriguing case, Liberland. On April 13, 2015, a new country was declared on the banks of the Danube. This bold move was not the result of a revolution or a political upheaval, but the vision of one man, Vít Jedlička, a Czech politician and committed libertarian. His declaration marked the birth of Liberland, a micronation that sprang up in a small, seemingly insignificant patch of land known as Gornja Siga. Nestled between Croatia and Serbia, Gornja Siga was a terra nullius, land unclaimed by any country despite its placement in a region often defined by territorial disputes. This 3-square-mile area, roughly the size of a small town, suddenly became the canvas upon which Jedlička began to sketch his utopia. But why here, and why now? Jedlička's motivations were deeply rooted in his libertarian ideals. He envisioned Liberland as a sanctuary for those who championed minimal government interference, where taxes were not mandatory but voluntary, and where personal and economic freedoms were not just ideals, but the foundations of the nation. He saw in Liberland an opportunity to demonstrate the practical applications of libertarian principles, an experimental space for a form of governance that prioritizes individual liberty and free market principles. The declaration of Liberland was met with curiosity and skepticism. While some viewed it as a novel experiment in nation-building, others dismissed it as a quixotic venture, unlikely to gain practical or legal recognition. Despite these differing perspectives, Jedlička pressed on, driven by a vision of a society that could operate under the principles he held dear. As news of Liberland spread, it attracted attention from around the world. Libertarians, adventurers, and those disillusioned with their own governments looked to this new nation as a beacon of hope, a testament to the power of idealism and the possibility of creating a new society from scratch. So what drives a person to declare a new nation? Ideals, opportunity, or something more? Imagine a country where taxes are optional and government is minimal. This is the ideological cornerstone of Liberland, a micronation claiming a small parcel of disputed land on the western bank of the Danube River. Its foundation rests on the bedrock of libertarianism, a political philosophy that champions individual liberty, free markets, and limited government intervention. The very essence of Liberland is encapsulated in its constitution, which is not just a document but a declaration of independence from overbearing government controls. It is an embodiment of the belief that individuals have the inherent right to live their lives as they see fit, as long as they do not infringe on the rights of others. This includes the freedom to engage in economic activities without excessive regulation and taxation. In Liberland, economic freedom is paramount. The idea is simple yet revolutionary. Let the market forces operate unhindered and prosperity will follow. Supporters argue that such freedom fosters innovation, entrepreneurship, and wealth creation, benefiting not just individuals but society as a whole. Meanwhile, personal freedom in Liberland extends beyond economics. It encompasses the freedom of speech, the right to privacy, and the liberty to pursue personal happiness in whatever form that might take, provided it does not harm others. Minimal state interference is another pillar of Liberland's ideology. The government's role is envisioned as nothing more than a night watchman state, primarily focused on protecting individual rights and maintaining public order rather than regulating day-to-day life. This minimalist approach is thought to prevent the accumulation of power in a few hands, thereby protecting freedom and ensuring equality before the law. Critics might argue that such a model is overly idealistic and impractical in a complex, interconnected world. However, proponents see Liberland as a living experiment in libertarian governance, a testing ground for theories that have often been debated but seldom implemented on a national scale. Liberland isn't just a place on the map, it's a manifesto of libertarian values. Starting a new country is not without its challenges. The ambitious endeavor of Liberland faces a multitude of hurdles, both legal and diplomatic, which underscore the complexities of carving out a new nation in today's tightly knit international community. Firstly, Liberland has not been recognized by any member state of the United Nations. Recognition is a crucial step for any aspiring nation as it grants legitimacy on the world stage, facilitating diplomatic relations and access to international treaties. The absence of this recognition places Liberland in a precarious position, navigating a world that largely views it as merely a curious entity rather than a sovereign state. Moreover, the very location of Liberland, nestled between Croatia and Serbia on the west bank of the Danube River, has been a bone of contention. Both neighboring countries have expressed reservations and at times outright opposition to the establishment of a new nation on what they consider to be either their territory or a no-man's land still under dispute. This territorial conflict adds a layer of complexity to Liberland's quest for legitimacy, intertwining it with long-standing regional disputes. The international response has varied from intrigued curiosity to skepticism. Some see Liberland as a fascinating experiment in libertarian governance, a theoretical playground for political and economic theories. Others dismiss it as an unrealistic project, unlikely to overcome the practical obstacles it faces. The global community watches closely, with some entities and individuals expressing interest in the implications of such a venture on international law and the established norms of statehood. Liberland also grapples with internal challenges such as establishing a functioning government, infrastructure and services that meet the needs of its would-be citizens. These are monumental tasks for any nascent state, especially one lacking the typical foundations on which most countries build. Despite these hurdles, the idea of Liberland continues to captivate and inspire. The vision of a new nation, founded on ideals of freedom and minimal government, holds a certain allure, challenging the status quo and inviting us to reimagine the possibilities of nationhood in the 21st century. What is life like in a country that is only as big as some neighborhoods? Imagine waking up in a place where everyone around you shares a pioneering spirit, committed to the idea of creating a new society from the ground up. This is the daily reality for the residents of Liberland. Liberland, though small in size, buzzes with the energy of its diverse population. The community, though numbering just a few hundred, is a vibrant mix of entrepreneurs, libertarians, adventurers, and dreamers from around the world. Each person here has chosen to be part of this unique social and political experiment. The infrastructure in Liberland is still in its infancy. Given its nascent stage, residents often adopt a do-it-yourself approach to building their environment. From solar panels dotting rooftops to satellite dishes for global communication, the landscape is a patchwork of innovation and self-sufficiency. The government, minimalistic by design, operates primarily to facilitate the free market and ensure personal liberties, mirroring the ideological foundations upon which Liberland was built. Daily life here is governed by a sense of community and mutual respect. With no large-scale policing, residents adopt a communal approach to security and governance, often meeting to discuss and decide on matters affecting their collective well-being. This participatory approach extends to all facets of life, creating a close-knit community atmosphere that is hard to find in larger, more established nations. The kind of people who find themselves drawn to Liberland are typically those who feel stifled by the regulations and restrictions of their home countries. Here they seek and often find a greater sense of freedom and personal responsibility. They are pioneers in a modern sense, using technology and a shared ideology to forge a new path. Economically, Liberland is still finding its footing. Cryptocurrencies play a central role in its economy, aligning with the country's emphasis on decentralization and innovation. This digital approach not only attracts tech-savvy individuals but also ensures that the economy remains fluid and boundless, much like the ideals that underpin the Liberland ethos. Liberland is more than an experiment. For some, it's home. Liberland, a dream of freedom and a challenge to traditional nation-state ideas. In the heart of Europe, nestled by the Danube, Liberland emerged as a declaration of independence from the conventional. It was founded on the belief that liberty, coupled with minimal state interference, can form the bedrock of a nation. This micronation, though unrecognized by most global entities, holds a torch for libertarian values, suggesting a societal model driven by voluntary cooperation and private property rights. The journey of Liberland is marked by significant challenges, not least of which is its struggle for international recognition. The world watches and waits as traditional states ponder the implications of acknowledging a new nation carved from what some consider terra nullius. Meanwhile, those who have moved there or supported it from afar experiment with a life that prioritizes freedom, entrepreneurship, and innovation. But what does Liberland really tell us about the future? It opens up a dialogue about sovereignty and governance in the modern world. Can a nation exist purely on the ideals of freedom and self-responsibility? Are traditional forms of government necessary or even beneficial in an age where individuals globally are more connected and empowered than ever before? These questions resonate beyond the small patch of land Liberland claims. They challenge the fabric of international law and the state-centric world order established over centuries. As we reflect on Liberland's story, we see not just a case study in nation-building, but a commentary on the evolving concept of what it means to be a country in the 21st century. Whether an utopian dream or a viable model for the future, Liberland continues to challenge how we think about countries and governance.